We are live on Proline TV talking some NASCAR on a Tuesday afternoon. Hope everybody is doing okay out there. I know we are because the road courses are behind us now for a little bit, unless you're Shane Van Gisbergen. So, CJ, we're joining us from rotowire.com. How's it going, CJ?
Going really well. Shane Van Gisbergen, again, road course king, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so NASCAR, they have got some interesting developments here, some marketing strategies that they're going to have to think about when they're putting their schedule together. Because if this continues, I mean, nobody wants to see this unless you're Shane Van Gisbergen.
At least they were closer this time. It wasn't 17 seconds. This time it was only a little over 1 second, which goes to show again, the Cup Series drivers, they've grown up on Sonoma. They know this track really well. So Shane wasn't going to have the edge over them at a place like he did at a place like Mexico or Chicago the first time. They know this track really well. And I think that showed again for me. I think I said last time I was disappointed in Ty Gibbs. I wish he would have raced SVG a little bit more aggressively at Chicago. I wish Chase Briscoe or anybody else would have done the same thing at Sonoma. I don't know how many restarts Briscoe decided.
I'm so annoying
alongside of him every single time, and it was the exact same
terrible
outcome every single time. Try something different. Yeah. Be willing to go off the front row, be behind him, apply the bumper, try something different. And it seems like just everyone's afraid. They know he's good, but everybody's afraid to step up and actually challenge him.
Yeah, that's not good. And if that's going to happen, then it's just become unwatchable. Or as I said last week, and I'm going to hold it myself to it. When's the next road course?
Watkins Glen. 3 weeks from now?
Okay. I don't care anything about. I don't hear anything about Watkins. Nothing. All I know is that as long as SVG is getting even money, I'm betting them. That's it. That's all I know. And until then, until someone knocks them off, then we'll go from there. But yeah, that's the reason, is because, I mean, even though they were closer, like you said, though, I don't know. It was, I just didn't, I don't understand, where was AJ? Why did Chase take so long? Where were these other really good road course drivers? They were doing nothing. So that's the thing I was really frustrated about. It was I wish that they would have given Shane a little bit of competition, but the better road course drivers did nothing. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree. And, Kyle Larson fell into that bucket as well. He won the race last year. Nowhere to be found. It was weird. Ryan Blaney, who you don't typically think of as a great road course driver, he was up there around the top 5, top 10, pretty much all.
He was fast.
Up getting crashed. And Briscoe is not one that you typically think that would be leading the guys at the road courses either. Really, the only one that showed any kind of fight or flair might have been Byron, but even he wasn't even able to get past Briscoe. So it was really weird. I think you had a whole mixture of names that, obviously you had Elliott and McDowell and Bell and Reddick and Gibbs and Byron, all, they made up the top 10 at the end of the day. Yeah. But nobody like Briscoe to be top of all of them every single lap. It was just really strange. I'm not sure exactly why it was, but yeah, you're right. The AJ Allmendingers, the Kyle Larson's, the other great road course racers just didn't have it.
And I would have liked to have seen on one of those restarts, there were 2 or 3 of them where Buescher was third. Yeah. And I just would have liked to have seen Buescher restart with Shane, because then you would have had a driver desperately looking for a win. Yep. And Buescher would have been a lot more aggressive than Briscoe.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I wasn't considering the fact that Briscoe's already got the win. I think Buescher, given the right position, I just think Briscoe, just from an entertainment standpoint, you've tried it 3 times. The 4th, just go back to the second row and be behind him. Just try something different, for crying out loud. Otherwise, we know that he's going to be half a car ahead of you by the time you get to turn 2, and he's going to be 1.5 cars ahead of you by the time he's out of turn 2. And that's the way it played out every single restart. Even with the restarts at the end, I was hoping for a little bit more action. We just never got it. We got it at the back of the field, but not at the front where it matters.
Okay. So before we move on to Dover, There was a good video. Eric Estepp, who does a really good job for covering NASCAR, had a really good video on the road course question. And I believe this was before the race. This was sometime last week. And he talked about, I guess there was Brad Keselowski had said something about we don't need X amount of road course races. And so now there's that debate about whether or not NASCAR has too many road course races. Well, after what we've seen so far this year, I mean, come on, really, seriously. If you say they need more, you're on the wrong end of that argument. But let's go ahead and check out what Eric said. I'm going to have to move this. Okay, where is it? There it is. Okay. So this was, I forget where exactly. I don't have the date on here. But anyway, it was within the last week.
Does NASCAR have too many road courses on the Cup Series schedule? For many years, there were only two. Sonoma on the West Coast, Watkins Glen on the East Coast. 2 out of 36 Cup Series races. I put up this graphic. Back in 2017, there were only 2 road races on the schedule. They added the Roval in 2018, but still 2, 3 a year. Pandemic, of course, shook things up. Then suddenly 7 road races, 6, 5, 6. The number of road races on this schedule have tripled in less than a decade, which has led to these kinds of discussions. NASCAR SiriusXM host Pete Pistone generated some conversation this week when he posted, "The criticism from some today about too many road courses is ironic to me because fans literally strongly asked for more just a handful of years ago. So many callers to the channel, and as this story reminds, on other platforms." And he links to a motorsport.com story from 2016, which suggested fans would like to see more road course racing. I've got a few thoughts on this. First and foremost, I appreciate Pete linking an old article showing his work. That's good. But first and foremost, context is key. 9 years ago, when that article was posted, the Cup Series schedule was flooded with intermediate ovals. We raced at Texas twice a year, Charlotte, the oval, twice a year, Pocono twice a year, Michigan twice a year, Chicagoland, Kentucky were still on the schedule. Traditional ovals had become stale in many ways. And the way the Gen 5 and then the Gen 6 lumbered around road course racing made those events exciting, different, mistakes, action-packed finishes, big moments. But that was 9 years ago. Today, we have fewer intermediate ovals on the schedule, and now the NextGen or Gen 7 car drives better at road courses, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Plus, we have stage racing, stage breaks in particular that break up the flow, mess up the natural strategy. So context.
Isn't that like the first thing that they can at least try doing again before they blow it all up? Is just, let's see what happens if we don't have stages.
They tried that though. And it
didn't help.
Can you imagine Sunday's race that SVG led 97 laps in? If there weren't the stage breaks and the forced strategy decisions around it, maybe it would have led 110 at that point. It would have been worse.
Back up to a late race restart at Chicago. A few rows behind the race leader, you can see a huge stack up. Still 2, 3 a year. Pandemic of too many road courses in road course races. Keselowski, Cup Series champion, active Cup Series driver, and team co-owner, responded to Pete's pro road course post with his own comments. Brad Keselowski said, quote, "We went from 2 to 6 road course races, possibly 7 next year. NASCAR was successfully built as a primarily oval racing series. IMSA was built as the primary road course series in North America. IMSA will always do road racing better than NASCAR, and that's okay. Yes, too many road courses in NASCAR." So Keselowski, not a fan of the current number of road races on the Cup schedule. And I think he's being objective because sure, you could say, well, of course, Brad doesn't want 6 road races on the schedule. Have you seen his numbers lately? But he actually pointed out in the follow-up that as an owner, with Preece running really well at road races this year, Chris Buescher obviously won a road course last season, really good himself. From an owner's perspective, Keselowski says he actually would want more road races, but he's trying to be objective. So I'll give Keselowski credit. Even though, I'll point this out, he mentions NASCAR being primarily an oval racing series. 30 out of 36 races are on ovals. if we include the exhibitions, 32 out of 38 are on ovals. That's 82% of the Cup schedule ovals. Still sounds like NASCAR is primarily an oval racing series to me. Is 6 road races too many?
Yes. What do you think? I mean, in this situation, yes. I actually don't mind it when there's competition and there's parity. But with this, I can't watch this.
Yeah, I think 4 to 6 is the right number. Watkins Glen, Sonoma, they've got the history. They've always been part and parcel of NASCAR, at least as long as I've been following it. I know you had Riverside and some other tracks earlier in NASCAR's history. I think probably getting over 4 to 6, I think is too high. I'm not a fan of the Roval. I'm not a fan of Mexico.
That's for sure.
Let's find, go to Mid-Ohio. I could actually drive to that race, so I'm a little biased. I would love to go see NASCAR at Mid-Ohio, and yeah, they had the trucks and other series there as well. But those can be entertaining races. But I think his context point is really important. We all remember the intermediate oval phase where that was probably 80% of the schedule. And we talk so much about how you don't need to go to New Hampshire twice. You don't need to go to Pocono twice, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that's what they were doing. And the old car was crap at those tracks. And that's what the majority of the schedule was. It happened to be really exciting on road courses because it didn't handle well at all on road courses. So I think he's right about the context, and this car definitely gives road racers a leg up on the competition, being able to come in and really dominate like SVG. But, I did a little bit of research prior to this week's show just on SVG, and his average finish on an oval this year, not including the exhibition races, was over 27th position. So he's finishing worse on average than 27th position. I think his average on the road courses is something like 2 or 3. Really, really short in terms of the average. But then you look at his average overall on all tracks combined, and it's still like 24th. It's just not what somebody in the playoffs should have. His average finish 23.1. So give him one number more. I said 24th. It's actually 23.1 on all tracks combined. Yet this is somebody who's tied with Denny Hamlin and and Kyle Larson at the top of the wins list for the year. And he's going to be in the playoffs. It's just unfortunate for him that the road course doesn't come until the end of the second round. And I'm not criticizing SVG as a driver. He's tremendous. I was blown away watching him that first year at Chicago. I love this Australian Supercars series where he came from. I love, Juan Pablo Montoya, Marcos Ambrose coming in and doing these, AJ Allmendinger. It's fun to watch them. But I think we're at the limit of where we probably should be right now, given the context per Eric as to where we are today with the car and with the schedule and with the championship the way that it is. I think four is probably right. 6 is pushing it, but somewhere in that range is probably okay.
Yeah, I think bottom line is if he wants to prove himself that he is getting better on the ovals, then hey, find a way to get past the first round and you can get to the final 8.
Absolutely.
That's basically what it is. You got 3 races to get to the second round, which we know then that chances are you'll win the Roval and you'll be in the final 8. So thank goodness the road course isn't in the first round. At least he's got to work for it now, which is better, even though I don't know what that Illinois race, that's I don't know whether some of those shorter tracks too, you would think, wouldn't you think that on some of the shorter tracks that now I haven't checked his stats, but you would think that he would be better on some of the shorter tracks. Maybe he is. I don't know.
Yeah, you'd think Phoenix, Martinsville, the places that race like road courses. AJ Allmendinger is really good at Martinsville. And there are other road course racers that are good at those tracks too, because they race like road courses. But even looking at the individual race results and not just the average from SVG, to get through to the second round, you eliminate the top four. So you got to have an average finish of 12th or better, theoretically, to get through to the second round. His best oval finish in a points race so far this season was at Charlotte when he finished 14th. He only has 2 other top 20s. It's not going to happen.
That's why I said it, and that's why it is what it is, and NASCAR has got to figure it out. So we don't need more road courses just yet. And is there any talk about having a new design as far as the car is concerned anytime soon?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So in that respect, then it has to come down to, see, I don't mind if you try Mexico. Okay. You know what? We tried it. It's no good. Unless you know how you can fix it for sure. Next year, that nobody wants to watch that. Okay, let's go to, like you said, let's go to Miami of Ohio. Let's check that out. Let's see if that works. I don't mind that. I don't mind. Let's go to new places and check them out and see, maybe it'll work. And then we've got a good track, a good road course race with this car. Then you know that this is one we can go to. So I'd like to see more of that, but I don't know, because it's always about money, and I don't know whether or not some of those tracks are gonna, and of course whether or not they own the track is always important.
They definitely don't own Mid-Ohio. And unfortunately, Mid-Ohio, I know I threw it out there, but Mid-Ohio is very similar to Sonoma. So you're not going to get a race even if you try it.
Okay.
It's narrow. It's got off-camera blind turns, a lot like Sonoma. So you got to find, I don't know. I just don't know. They're talking about going to Philadelphia, maybe a different street layout. Like you said, yeah, try it out, experiment, but don't increase the number to experiment.
No, don't do that.
Switch out the ones that already don't work, please.
And by the way, we talked about at Charlotte at the Coke 600. The NextGen car is working well there.
Yes.
So let's now take away the Roval, put in the second race at Charlotte like the old days, and throw that Roval to either another oval, or put the Roval to another oval or another road course. I don't care, but get rid of the Roval. We've seen enough of that.
Yep, totally agree.
Okay, let's get into this week. So we are going to be talking about Dover, and it's not like the upcoming schedule isn't all that great, but at least there are no SVG-dominated road courses for the next several weeks. Well, at least until Watkins Glen. So we have Dover, the Brickyard, which is always fantastically exciting, and Iowa, which I don't recall that being very exciting. So that's what we got here for the next 3 races before Watkins Glen, Richmond, and then, which should be exciting, no doubt about it, Daytona in the last race before the playoffs. So really looking forward to that. All right. Let's now talk, before we go over the odds, let's talk about Dover. This is a mile track, concrete with higher banking. So therefore, even though it's not a 1 mile track, would Bristol be the most similar track?
For me, yeah. Dover kind of stands on its own. It's really demanding, concrete, rough surface, super high banking, but you can't necessarily run the top line. So you're kind of forced down into that bottom line, maybe 1.5 lanes up from the bottom. So in other words, the racing surface is pretty narrow, unlike Bristol, where sometimes you can get multiple three-ish types of lanes going. I just don't see that necessarily happening at Dover very frequently. So Dover can be very much track position, but you also have a tendency at Dover, given the really harsh concrete and the strong loads going through the turns, higher speeds with the higher banking, where you can create some tire failures as teams try to push the envelope on their settings. So you may end up with some higher attrition. You may end up with some weird results as a result of a late caution or blown front tires, taking out top contenders, things like that. But yeah, probably Bristol's, for me, probably the closest, just because of the surface and the banking type. Significantly shorter, but similar.
So it's actually the type of race where someone like Carson Hocevar could end up in the top 5, and he's going for a win. And then with 50 laps to go, his tire's going to blow, and he's gonna wreck. That's the kind of race track, and that wouldn't be surprising to see that happen, because you really have to be an experienced driver to race and win at Dover. I mean, this is, like you said, this is not an easy track. Even though it's boring, it's not an easy track to win when you're only raced there a couple times. You need some experience at Dover, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think definitely from a setup perspective, one of the younger drivers that actually does really well at it, though, is Ty Gibbs. Obviously, with the full backing and resources of Joe Gibbs, and Martin Truex was really good at this track prior to, Gibbs coming into the team as well. So Gibbs knows how to get this car set up for this track, and Gibbs is able to take advantage of it. JGR knows how to get the car set up for this track, and Ty is able to take advantage of it. So I think it's more of an experienced track, kind of like a Darlington with the really rough surface. Try to race the track more so than maybe the competition, but it can also be a track position track at the same time.
Okay, so they have been racing here just once a year the last 4 years. So if you have to go back to 2020, the last time, that's pre-COVID, the last time, they have had 2 races a year at Dover. So good for that. And the last 3 races, obviously, that's where we get into the next gen. Toyota Chevy seems to have things going here at Dover. Toyota's won the last 2. You mentioned Truex. He won a couple of years ago. Hamilton won last year. Chevy has won 2 of the last 4. Ford, though, on the other hand, has just 1 win in the last 9. That was Kevin Harvick. He actually also won in 2011, the last time another Ford won. So that means no current Ford driver has ever won driving a Ford at Dover. So that's something that I think definitely has to come into play. So Toyota Chevy definitely on manufacturer wise, they're on a completely different level than Ford coming in. Meanwhile, as far as starting position, that actually isn't a big deal. You've had in NextGen, you've had 6th and 4th as well as 17th. Truex was 17th. By the way, that year it was a rain out as far as the setup was. So you have to throw that into consideration. But 3 of the last 5 winners have started 16, 17, and 17. So there is I think that 17 might actually even be a line that you want to draw. And maybe I'll do that on Saturday when we go over the speed charts for qualifying and practice. Should be about 4:00 on Saturday. And because if you look at it, the last 19 winners have started 17th or better. So 19. And in the last 16 winners, 9 started in the top 10, 7 started outside the top 10, which again is just telling you that unlike some of the other tracks we've gone to lately, and including the road courses, this is a setup where, as long as you're inside the top 17, that's okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's similar to a number of other ovals as we've come to be familiar with. Still, it's going to come down to getting the right kind of setup, not pushing your tires too much, not making any mistakes. It's a rough track. They don't call it the Monster Mile for no good reason.
What do you think about our boy Cole here? And
interesting
regarding the tires.
Brand new tire. That's good information. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, we'll see how it works. Dover is just notorious for teams trying to run as low of tire pressure as possible in that front right tire to get it to turn. We've seen so many failures from very fast cars. So like you said, Carson Hocevar, whose team needs to push that envelope and kind of swing for the fences to get him up there. Probably not necessarily the best position for them to be in. We'll see how the new tire goes. It's going to be the same for everybody if there was no testing for it, certainly. Just hope we don't end up with a complete disaster like we've seen sometimes with the tires where nobody can run more than 6 laps.
Yeah.
was that Bristol that happened a couple of years ago when the first race back from the
I think so.
Yeah, that was just awful. Hopefully we don't end up in that situation again. Hopefully Goodyear's making them a little bit more sturdy so that they can run a little bit lower tire pressure, and maybe we'll get some better competition. So it could be a good thing.
Yeah, then again, Bristol, of course, also had the dirt racing not too long ago, so I could be a little confused with that. But I think you're right. All right. Let's now take a look at the odds for this week's race. This idea, not very good. I don't know why anybody would try to market their brand like this. Who is going to remember? Who is going to remember Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive? 400.
Auto Trader, Auto Echo Park, Auto Echo.
Yes,
Auto
right.
Park,
Exactly.
Auto.
Who is going to, I mean, whose idea was that? So what is that? Is that actually one company?
Auto Trader, Echo Park are never going to sponsor us after that. So
yeah, like we really have anything to worry about.
Yeah, I don't know if they're one company or not. I'm not familiar. I'm very familiar with Auto Trader, less so with Echo Park. I presume they're related in some form or fashion if they're both up there, though.
All right. Okay. So who's the favorite of the race?
Kyle Larson.
You know, you would be absolutely
wrong. Wow.
Tied right.
Oh, okay. That's better.
So, yeah. I don't think that's too surprising. Matter of fact, I think that's probably what would make sense with, except for the fact that because Vegas doesn't care much about trends. They don't care about trends. They just care about, I mean, sure, they care about history, but trends they don't care about. And that is where there's a huge difference between the way Denny Hamlin is racing right now and the way Kyle Larson is racing right now. And that's up to us to take advantage of that. And that is why that even though historically they should probably be right around here, maybe Hamlin does deserve to be a little bit, more of a favorite because he's had a little bit, more of a dominant run. But Larson, both of them really have had these nice runs recently, very similar if you really look at it, except Larson has one less win. In the last 7 races, Hamlin has 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s, and 2 wins. Larson in the last 6 races has 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s, 2 runner-ups, and a win. They both had pretty much the same types of laps led during that run. Hamlin 77 a race, Larson 79 a race. So there's a lot of similarities there. If you take a look at, again, whether or not you want to compare Phoenix, Bristol, we'll throw in the Phoenix stuff because it is a mile track. Hamlin was second at Phoenix, and second at Bristol. Larson, third at Phoenix, dominates Bristol. So that's a sign there that, yeah, both of these drivers are really good here lately over the years, seem to be good at these types of tracks so far this year. But the difference is we know Denny Hamlin is going through a nice run right now. Kyle Larson, though, in his last 8 races, has a 19.7 average.
It'll be interesting to see how both of these guys actually come to Dover off the back of 2 road course races. I think Denny Hamlin had a pretty good Chicago. Both of them, Larson had the worst Sonoma, but Hamlin was nowhere to be found at Sonoma. Probably should have done better, would have expected more from him. Denny Hamlin obviously is the defending winner of at this race. He usually starts inside the top 10 though, and usually finishes inside the top 10 as well. So he's got a very good average finish. But Kyle Larson last year, he finished second to Hamlin, actually started 21st and still led 39 laps. And there have been 4 races where Larson has led more than 130 laps at this track. So Larson knows his way around here. He's got some really great finishes. He's got 1 or 2 really bad ones. Other than that, he's been very consistently inside the top 10. I give Kyle Larson the edge. And quite honestly, I was expecting him to be more like plus 35, 350 versus the 500. So I think that's actually a pretty good number for Tuesday for Kyle Larson at Dover, a place where he's got a win back in 2019 and consistently does pretty well. But you're right, Denny Hamlin definitely on a greater trajectory, led 136 laps in this race last year, but also started higher. So you're not going to have these odds, I don't think, for both of them when you get to qualifying on Saturday. So probably choose one of them now.
Yeah, and that's the tough part because choosing the one is not going to be easy. But I will say this, that if you're going to choose one and you like them both equally, take Larson today. Because Larson has proven, he just proved it last year. He started 21st, still led 39 laps, finished in second. Hamlin, meanwhile, you could tell that normally his best results have come here when he does qualify well. When he doesn't, he's outside the top 10. That's usually not when he's going to have a good run. But look, we're nitpicking because both of them have had pretty good runs here lately. But that would be the way that I would go about maybe doing that. I would just kind of pass on them completely because of the fact that I've said this before. I mean, at least with a heavy favorite, you can look at things a little bit differently where you can just go with the favorite if you want, go down that route, and that's fine. But when you have two of them, especially at such a low number, now you're going with a low number, which is a big risk. And then the other guy could just end up being better and it wouldn't be a surprise. So I just think it's one of those races. It's not a great race anyway. We all know that. I just think Dover is one of those weeks where it's just, you know what? Let me just throw a couple of medium shot to longer shot picks, not big long shots because big long shots don't do well here. But I'll just go that route, throw a little money in it, not much, and see if Hamlin and Larson have a pass this week. And by the way, I just can't take Larson anyway, to tell you the truth. That's the reason why I pass on him anyway, because I'm telling you to take Larson, but Larson, I just can't take him when he's in this situation. I mean, he's just this is a long run that he hasn't been. Now, maybe this will be the week that he'll get going again. I just don't know whether or not all of a sudden he's just going to, on the dime, win a race and be the old Kyle Larson. That doesn't seem to be the way Kyle Larson or most drivers are like. Usually when they're in a little bit of a slump, it takes them a race or two to get going.
Yeah, fair point. Again, coming off of a really bad Sonoma weekend too, when he very much underperformed.
Yeah.
So yeah, both. I agree.
Who would you take, Hamlin or Larson?
Oh, I would take Larson because for me, the one thing that gives me pause, agreeing with everything that you said, the one thing that gives me pause is the fact that Kyle Larson now for a couple of years has been very much up and down. So he can win a race, he can win 2 races in a row, and then he can finish 33rd 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And then it seems like he comes back and then he's back again. Typically it does, take a progression. Last week was not the progression that you want to be seeing because he was nowhere to be found. It ended up getting caught in a bunch of other issues as a result of that. So there's definitely something to be said about him coming into a race this weekend with no momentum. However, just based on his history at this track and how much he's led, how much he's been out front, it's typically Hendrick cars with the Joe Gibbs ones that are out there at Dover. So Larson with the better average finish would be who I'd take of the two.
Yeah, and again, if Larson's going to just snap out of it, this would be the type of racetrack where he's had really good success before where that would happen. So, okay. By the way, I also should throw in the fact that speaking of qualifying and all that kind of stuff, just taking a look here. Let's see, where is it? Okay, so this is interesting. I'll talk more about this on Saturday, of course. But last year, Chevy and Ford actually were the faster cars on Saturday sessions, on both of them. Chevy and Ford. That's right. Ford was, along with Chevy. Toyota only had 2 of the top 6 in qualifying, and actually only had 2 of the top 14 in qualifying, and 2 of the top 5 in practice, which was actually only 2 of the top 10. But they still won with 2 of the top 3 finishers, Hamlin and Truex, and they led the most laps combined, Hamlin and Truex. Ford, nowhere to be seen. 2023, again, rain in the qualifying, but in practice, well, again, don't forget, Truex started 17th, even though who knows where he would have started if they actually did qualify. But Toyota did not have a car in the top 6 in practice. And just like 2024, Ford and Chevy were the fastest manufacturers in practice on Saturday. Meanwhile, Toyota wins the race, but Chevy had the two fastest cars. Byron and Chastain combined to lead 291 of 400. And then in 2022, that's right, it's a broken record, but Chevy and Ford were once again the fastest cars on Saturday. But Chevy also had the top three on Sunday, which was Elliott winning the race, and so they were fine. But once again, Ford nowhere to be seen. Ford basically not figured out a way yet, NextGen, to race well on Sunday after qualifying and practicing well on Saturday. Matter of fact, in the three NextGen races, they are 1 out of 19 on Sunday. That's pretty bad. And yet, we're going to get to a driver whose odds are a little bit low. For my taking,
Ryan Blaney. Yep.
And he's my guy, but I just went over all of that with you. And I would have said, hey, if I can get Ryan Blaney at 12-1, it's not a bad one of those mini long shots that I could take a look at, just like I was saying before. But I mean, I'm getting no value here from Ryan Blaney. Who do you think is right next to Blaney?
Either Elliott or Byron.
So Byron and Blaney are both 7-1. So as far as this tandem here,
go with Byron. No question.
Yes,
It's got the better average finish, better result. Blaney is getting the bonus of having top three starts the last two races here and finishes inside the top 10. Prior to that, he only had two other top 10 finishes, both 8th places, but those were back in before 2020, 2018, 2016. Average finish out of 14 starts at Dover for Blaney is 17.4. His average start is significantly better, 10.8. So perhaps that's something maybe he should have a little bit more, powder that he could use during the race. But for whatever reason, Ford's, like you pointed out, over the past several years, just not performing in the race. You look at somebody like Byron, he's got an average finish of 14.9. His average start is 12.5, and he's led 229 laps? No, I'm sorry, 229 laps.
257 total. 250 over his last 5.
Just the last 2 over 200 laps.
Yes.
So for me, it's Byron all day.
Yeah, especially Chevy versus Ford. And by the way, Blaney was 22-1 last year. Well, what the heck is he doing at 7-1 now? Doesn't make any sense. Like, again, like you said, though, his best 2 races have been his last 2 races. Yep. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. He led 47 laps from the front row last year. So 7th and 3rd last 2. And those average starting position for Blaney actually shrinks in his last 5. It's down to 4.8. Meaning, if you like Blaney, take him now, because this is a race that we know he's not a great qualifier, but this race he does. And so I go with that, because that means you're not getting anything better than 7-1 if he qualifies well. But interesting enough, he has proven that this has been a good track for him, at least in the Xfinity Series. His last 4 Xfinity Series results, 2 fourths, a second, and a first. Of course, it was between 2015 and 2017, but it just shows you that this has been okay for track for him. He feels comfortable here. He feels comfortable here lately. The problem is, what is he doing at 7-1? That's the big issue that we have. Byron, on the other hand, as CJ pointed out, has been equally as good as Blaney lately, and even better, because he's led a bunch of laps. Okay, next up, we've got these 4 drivers here, and out of these 4, the ones that stick out for me, probably, I mean, the one that definitely sticks out for me, like clearly 100%, is Elliott. Yep. So I think Elliott, even though he just won, I don't care about that. See, here's the thing too. Here you got Elliott, who, if you look at it, he's got 12th or better in 12 of his 14 races. The only two that he did not have a 12th or better finish here in his career, he had an engine issue and a wreck. He has a 4.6 average finish when he finishes the race. And he has 10 top fives in 14 races with 2 wins. He was 5th last year from the 29th spot. He won the race from the 4th spot in 2022. But the interesting thing is he's got a 5.6 average in his last 5 races on the season with 4 top fives and a win. Compare that to Larson, and I'm getting 12-1 with Elliott, but 5-1 with Larson. I think Elliott is proving that he's right up there with Larson pretty much at this track. Yes, Larson's been a little bit better, but Elliott's got a couple of wins here and 10 top fives. So why on earth would I take Larson at 5-1 and not Elliott at 12-1?
Yeah, it's like splitting hairs between the two of them in terms of average finish at this particular track. Kyle Larson's average finish is 8.8, Chase Elliott's 9.5. Elliott's also shown, like Larson, that he can come from the back and finish in the top. I mentioned Kyle Larson last year finished second, but started outside the top 20 last year. Elliott finished 5th and started 29th. So Elliott's just got this track. His average start is 9.9, average finish is 9.5. He's led 394 total laps. You mentioned the only 2 blemishes on his Dover career were an engine failure and a crash. Plus, he's still has not finished outside of the top 20 yet this season in any race, and he's on that run of top 5 finishes like you mentioned. So Elliott probably the best on the board so far at this point.
Would you take any of these other drivers? I mean, the only thing that I think attracts me to either of the other 3 would be the fact that Reddick has got his groove going again with 3 straight good results, even though he's never led a lap here. Bell has only led 1 lap here, and Chastain maybe sticks out the most because he has that second, he has that third in 2023 and 2022, where he had a combined 184 laps led. And if you look at it, NextGen, he's got a 5.6 average. Pre-NextGen, he was 28.4. Keeping in mind, he hasn't had a top 5s in the last 7 races since his win. But I might go with Chastain first, Reddick second, and Bell third.
I personally would avoid Chastain because last week was a race that he should have done well at, and he did poorly.
What did you think, by the way? What did you think about that in the beginning of the race?
With Suarez?
No, Chastain. Not that. At the beginning of the race, when the announcers said, because they were talking about the strategy at the end of the stage. Mm-hmm. And the announcer said that, I think he said that maybe he might have mentioned it from Chastain's crew chief. We don't have a car that can beat him this week, so we have to go ahead and take points like this, the stage points.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Didn't Chastain start and practice in the top 5 last week?
Yeah, but once the green flag flew, he was nowhere to be found. I mean, he dropped like a rock.
Well, if they're doing that sort of strategy as the race is going, that's fine. But that's why I said he was referencing the crew chief already saying this.
Yeah.
That means before the race, the crew chief was saying, we don't have a car to beat SVG, when he's like one of the fastest drivers out there on Saturday. Chastain was. I mean, I don't know what that was about.
I guess that's right. That's more evidence of what we talked about at the beginning, where it'd be nice if the aggression would start coming and people would start taking chances rather than just kind of opening the door and allowing SVG to go by. And I know people are going to say SVG is so good that they get no chance, but on the restarts, like, just try something, like, make an effort. And I just don't see
aggressive.
Exactly. And if you're opting for stage points, that makes sense for somebody like Bubba Wallace, who's fighting on the bubble, and that's what he did, and he got some decent points as a result of that. I think he extended his lead over Ryan Preece in the bubble between 16th and 17th place in the playoff standings as a result of that. But when you've got to win Yeah, I guess you've got to take everything that you can get from the day. But to your point, theoretically, you had a fast car. This is a good track for you. You know, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage for the final stage by not coming in early then, or playing that strategy. There are two different strategies. You either play for the race win or you play for the stages. And Chastain, I agree. I think probably should have been playing for the win. And that probably goes part and parcel with why he had such a bad finish. But yeah, I would avoid Chastain just because of his race last week. I think he's another one that may be lacking some mojo. So for me, it's between Tyler Reddick and Bell. Reddick definitely is on an upswing. He's got everything going the right direction right now, and this isn't a terrible place for him. I do think Bell, there's something to be said though for Bell, just because of the fact that he's driving a Joe Gibbs car, and they've been really good here, though he hasn't, to your point, gotten out and led a lot of laps at the track. So he did crash out last year, but only qualified 33. So between Reddick and Bell, those would probably be the only other two. Chase Elliott clearly remains the standout.
Yeah, Bell did win Phoenix, so keep that in mind. The only other mile track we've seen so far, and also Reddick has an average start of 12.2 at Dover, but an average finish of 14.5, and he finished 20th at Phoenix and 18th at Bristol. So on those tracks, at least this season, Reddick has not done well. Okay, now I was a little bit surprised to see Briscoe down to 16-1 here. I thought I was going to get him like around like where Bowman is and Busch is, right around 22, because the only reason Briscoe was at 16 is because I guess because they're looking at it as he's driving Truex's car. Truex did really well at Sonoma. He did really well at Sonoma. And even though Briscoe's never done anything here at Dover, that must mean something. So he had a good week last week. Let's put him at 16. But now you got no value at 16. I much prefer the 22 because that's the only thing I can think of why he's 16-1.
Yeah, that is the only reason. Average finish at this track of 24.3. None of those were in a Joe Gibbs racing car. Obviously, Truex had some pretty good success here. Briscoe just doesn't do it for me this week, especially considering it's a one-off track now. Back when Truex was racing, it was 2 times a year. Obviously, more recent years, he was still racing, and it's down to 1, but he's got all that experience that Briscoe just doesn't have.
By the way, in the Xfinity Series, he did have a win, Briscoe, in 2020 and did well in this series. I actually think he'll race well, but I see no value to take him at 16-1. So
well, even with that, though, you can see that he's been getting better. He qualified 6th and 7th in his last 2 Dover races, and I think he'll qualify well here again, maybe even better considering the fact that it's Joe Gibbs' car. But again, he just doesn't race well. Went from 30th, the starting spot of 6th, to 30th in 2023, starting spot of 7th in 24. Ended up finishing 19th. So he's got to get a full race together for me to better that average finish of 24.3. If he's top 10, maybe next year I'll consider him.
Okay. And then let's see, just move this down a little bit. You see here, Bowman at 22-1. Bowman has 5 top 5s and a win. So that's nice. Matter of fact, he has 6 top 10s in his last 7, 5 of those top 5s, a runner-up and a win. His win in 2021 was the last race before the NextGen switch. Keep that in mind. Dominated that race for him, leading 98 laps from the 16th position. But he's only been in the 2 NextGen races, 8th and 5th. So Bowman's done really good here, and he's still getting 22-1. So I have no problem with Bowman at 22-1 because we know how he has now gotten a nice little run going, and he'd like to keep that happening. Kyle Busch is another one that is a pretty decent play here. Kyle is someone who not only has 3 wins, but 14 top 5s. He's led over 1,300 laps in 36 races. He was on the pole last year, finishing 4th. He was on the pole in 2023, leading 25 laps, even though he finished 21st. So in both races for RCR, he has been on the pole. That has to count for something, including the fact that Kyle comes in with 2 good results on the road courses, on the street race as well. And then you've got Buescher, another one. Now, the only thing with Buescher is he's driving a Ford, but I think Buescher might be the most valued Ford we have here at 25-1, because in his last 3 races, the next gens, he does have 2 top 10s and a pole. And keep in mind, in 4 Xfinity Series races, he has a 6.0 average, including a 2015 win. So we know that he would like to get a win to guarantee himself a spot. So I think, oh, and by the way, with Logano on the board here, I have no interest in him. He has 41 laps and 28 races. I mean, this has just not been Joey Logano. I don't even know what he's doing at 25-1. We've seen ridiculous odds the other day at 90-1 and even 45-1. Well, I'd be okay with Joey Logano at 30, 35-1, maybe even 40. I'd say that's about right. But it's just his name is the only reason he's getting 25-1. But I say all 3 of those guys, Bowman, Busch, and Buescher, are the type of long shots I was talking about at the outset.
Bowman would be my top choice. I think really good odds there for a really good stretch of Dover finishes for him. Even just looking at the introduction of the next gen car, still 5th and 8th. But like you said, 6 out of the last 7 Dover races for him were all top 10 finishes. So obviously picking up momentum this season as well. Kyle Busch has led a ton of laps recently. 103, 25, 34 in the last 3 races at Dover is the amount of time that he spent out front. So for me, it's those 2. Buescher, probably would have liked him a little bit more a couple of years ago. I've been talking a lot this season and probably even last year as well, where the RFK cars tend to do really well on rough surfaces. This is definitely a challenging surface with the concrete and everything. So perhaps Buescher and RFK can turn it around, but it seems like this year they're just maybe a half step behind where they were a couple of years ago. And like you said, Logano, just awful. And it's really, like you said, 41 laps for 28 starts, but just looking from the next gen car from 22 onward, 29th, 31st, and 16th. So don't waste your time with Logano this week. For me, at top of the heap is Alex Bowman, then probably Kyle Busch.
Yeah, Logano had pre-next gen 15 top 10s in 38 races. Next gen average 25.3. So
terrible.
Not where you want to see a driver that you're considering taking. All right, Carson Hocevar. I'm not really sure why he's back. I don't know. Maybe I guess they've been throwing him now down to this range every week since he almost won at Atlanta, was it? But once again, do I have to go back to his results? I mean, besides that finish, he has done nothing result-wise to warrant 28-1. But it is what it is. And unfortunately, those odds just won't come down, even though they should. So he has, he was 22nd last year. So I don't know. We don't have enough data, and he's also a young driver at Dover. So it just doesn't make any sense that he would win this week. Gibbs, as you said, CJ, Gibbs, maybe this is his week. Who knows? Because he's on a nice run, 8.5 average, last 6 races, but he has a long way to go if he doesn't win a race. So he still needs to win a race potentially. He was 3rd at Bristol, so that's really good news for him. And he does have a couple of decent results here, considering he had 2 bad qualifying runs. So that's what you're really banking on with Ty this week, is if he can give you maybe a top 10 qualifying run this week. And you know what? They haven't really been respecting Gibbs at all with the odds. They didn't respect him last week. So I'm not sure you're going to lose a whole lot if he has a top 10 qualifying run, but 28-1 is a pretty decent number that I'd probably risk even before I see qualifying out of him. And Keselowski and Cindric, I don't really think they're in the running at all.
I would definitely go with Gibbs. Average finish, obviously it's only 2 races here in the Cup Series, average finish of 11.5. If you look at his average finish throughout both races, like every single lap, not average finish, but average position each lap through both of those races, it's actually 12.1. And he's spent almost 3/4 of the laps at Dover that he's running inside the top 15. Can't believe that he's at 28. It's got to be just a matter of, he should be above Briscoe, in my opinion. They're both in same Joe Gibbs racing cars.
That's true.
Gibbs has got a much better record. Why isn't he up there with Briscoe? I think Gibbs is definitely the one to take this far back.
Yeah, Keselowski has only led 17 laps in his last 7 at Dover. Does have a win, unlike Logano, but has not had a top 5 in his last 12. at Dover. Meanwhile, Cindric, the other Penske driver, has not shown anything at all here.
25.7 from 3 Dover starts. Best finish of 15th last year.
And then you got the other RFK driver, Ryan Preece, but Preece hasn't done anything here pre-RFK, so we don't really have all we're doing is basically guessing, sort of like Hocevar in a way, but Preece has more experience, and at least you're getting double the money. So I'd say I'd much rather take Ryan Preece than Hocevar. I will say that, especially since we're getting double the money. But I don't know if that'd be the way to go either. I'd wait to see how he does on Saturday because it's a big enough number. Meanwhile, any of these other drivers, the only one that sticks out is Josh Berry, because Berry, if he can qualify a little bit better, may be someone to look at because his results next gen, not bad. He was also 4th at Phoenix. And if you look at it, his 3 Xfinity Series results, 1st, 2nd, 2nd, leading over 100 laps. And whenever he had his best results in the Xfinity Series, he also qualified well. He hasn't been able to qualify well enough in the Cup. So Berry may be another one like Preece, maybe especially Berry because he's got a lot more data that says good at Dover, where I'd say, all right, if Berry has a good Saturday, I'm still going to get a decent number, and then maybe I'll take a look at him.
Yeah, I think the other one that deserves a shout is Eric Jones. His average start at Dover is 13.5, average finish is 13.8, and that includes more races and time spent with Joe Gibbs Racing. We've talked a lot about how good they've been at this track, but it also includes 3 with incarnations of Legacy Motor Club. So 2 years ago, he started 25th and finished 10th, driving incarnation of Legacy Motor Club, or what they're called now. It was Petty back then. Last year, started 11th and finished 16th. So I think Jones, with his experience, we were talking about this being an experienced track. Jones got a lot of experience that he takes from his time at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I think that's transferring through to his time at Legacy. So he might be one worth a shout here as well.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, long shots at Dover, it just don't make much sense. I'm talking deep long shots. Wallace hasn't done anything. Stenhouse had a runner-up in 2022, but that basically came from nowhere. And then take a look at this. Look at this. Come on now.
Back to finishing outside of the top 25.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. What in the world does 3 road course wins have to do with him going to Dover? Ridiculous. So anyway, yeah, I don't see any of the, I mean, the only one that I actually would look at if you want to maybe top 10 it would actually be Cole Custer. Custer in his 4 cup races has an average finish of 11.5, which is not bad for Cole Custer, with an average starting position of 22.8. And get this, in the Xfinity Series, 7 top 10s out of 8, 5 top 5s and a win. And he led over 300 laps in those races. That's domination, with a 5.5 average. And last year, he finished 5th in the Xfinity Series race, leading 95 laps. So Custer has done well both in the Cup Series and in the Xfinity Series, and he's 200-1. So maybe not a bad idea to maybe see if he could pop in a top 10.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely look at his top 10 results or odds. Last 2 times he was at Dover, he started 30th both times and finished 10th and 15th. So yep. 11th, 10th, and 15th. And obviously the last race that he ran here in the Cup Series was back in 2022. So he's got a couple of years off from being in this series, but he's another one that gets this track. So at those odds, why not? Definitely better than going with SVG this week.
Okay. Who's got the picks this week first?
I believe it's me.
Okay. So, Mr. Radoon, where are you going to go?
I'm going Larson, top pick.
Okay. Kyle Larson. Okay. I will go. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and take Byron.
Okay. Give me Bowman.
Oh, okay. Bowman, 22-1. I'll take Elliott.
All right. My last choice is Gibbs.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't take Gibbs this week. I need to take a rest from Gibbs. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm also going to take a rest from Kyle, but that doesn't mean I won't put a little money on Gibbs and Kyle. But I'll take a break from him on my picks this week and go with Buescher. I know I'm doing a Ford, but again, he's got good odds. So. All right, so there you go. Larson, Bowman, Gibbs, Byron, Elliott, Buescher. And if I was doing a deep long shot, the only one I would consider is Custer. Would you have anyone in mind that's 40, 50 to 1 or higher?
What was Jones?
Oh, Jones is, 60 to 1.
There you go. I'll go with Jones then. Deep.
Okay, I like that.
Not deep, but deep.
That's deep enough at Dover.
Deep enough.
That's a good one. Okay, yeah, because how often do we see Eric Jones average starting and finishing in the 13 range? Not very often.
Maybe Darlington.
Maybe. Meanwhile, just quickly want to remind everybody too that we are not going to be talking F1 until
next week.
Oh, we're back next week. Okay.
Belgium.
Okay. So, and just championship wise, again, I still think Chase Elliott at 9 to 1, and even Byron, if you're a big Byron guy, you believe this is his breakthrough year. I think you want to take advantage of those numbers right now. Anyone else? Shane Van Gisbergen, 25 to 1.
How is that even possible?
I don't know, man. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine somebody actually put money on him to win the championship, and they were forced to move him down to 25 to 1. I don't know. Let's see. Bowman, I still think is solid at 25. Buescher at 40. And I still think Kyle at 50 and Gibbs at 50 are probably, some long shots to take a look at this point. Because again, we know how good Kyle is as a Hall of Fame driver. So it's just a matter of, can he get going? And how do we know he won't? So at 50 to 1, why not? And again, Gibbs is starting to look like the Gibbs we've expected to see. Gibbs. This has been going on a while now. It's 8 races. So 8 or 6. I think it's 8. So it's enough either way that shows you that maybe he's got something going himself in his last 6 races, and maybe even 7 after Sunday.
Yeah, I think Alex Bowman, those odds probably pretty attractive for him as a championship contender, because we know how hot he can get from time to time. And it's still shocking, I guess, for somebody with an average oval finish worse than 27th to be 25 to 1 to win the championship. Basically have to win at Phoenix to do it for SVG.
Yeah, Elliott and Byron, by the way, 7 to 1 and 9 to 1 respectively. They are the top 2 in points right now. Another reason why they are not bad options if you want to go that route, even though the numbers are in single digits. Okay, so next week we have Brickyard.
Going back to Indianapolis, yes.
And when was the last time we were there?
Last year was the first time back on the oval after doing that version of the Roval. Hopefully, I seem to remember it being a little bit better than it was prior to going to the infield road course. Hopefully that was because of the new car, not just because I was glad to see an oval and an infield course taken off the schedule. So hopefully my memory is correct, and that ends up being a pretty decent race. After that, we go to Iowa. But next week will be Indianapolis. And then if you're a Formula One fan, we'll be talking about Belgium as well.
Yeah. Kyle Larson won the race last year, leading 8 laps. So the good thing was there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers that led 16 or more laps.
That is a good thing.
And the winner was not one of them. So, yeah, definitely better than before. So that's next week. And double duty, NASCAR and F1 right here on this show live. And I also want to remind everybody about Saturday when I'll come on and update what's going on after qualifying and practice. That should be about 4 o'clock. I'm going to record the show, and then we'll post it right after that. CJ, you're going to have your DFS NASCAR RotoWire report ready. So we'll be able to post that sometime probably Friday or Saturday. Maybe we'll probably even be able to post that when Kevin gives his picks. Don't forget to look out for Kevin's picks coming out usually on Friday of race weekend. That would be correct?
That is correct. Try to get them out Friday afternoons for everybody well in advance of any kind of racing so that you got the time to be able to make your decisions for Sunday.
And I know I don't know why I even thought about this possibility, but it all depends. But stay tuned on Sunday. I don't know. I might be crazy enough to actually do something live. When I was thinking of actually just doing a post-race show, and then I said to myself, like for just a couple minutes, and then I said to myself, well, if I'm going to do that, maybe I should just start 5 minutes early when the race is still going on. So I'm wildly thinking about something as crazy as that because this is Dover. But anyways, you never know. Look out for that. One of these weekends, I might be crazy enough to go live late in the race or post-race. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification. I'll let you know whenever something like that happens. And then so far, so good for potentially CG and I doing our Daytona live show, which would be only for the last half hour or so of the race. So far, so good. Nobody has interfered with CJ's schedule just yet, and we haven't seen the weather forecast yet. So, but still a long way to go to screw that up. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. CJ Radun, rotowire.com. I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again